chapter of the book of Bamidbar, Parashat Matot-Masei, tells us the story of the heads of the tribe of Menashe. They approach Moshe and they say to Moshe the following. Earlier in the book of Bamidbar, we're told the story of Benot Tzolafchad, the daughters of Tzolafchad, the 5 daughters of Tzolafchad. Their father had died, they had no brothers, and they wanted to make sure that they got their father's portion. Their father's portion not be lost, in other words, that they inherit their father's portion. There are no sons. Apparently they presumed that the law would exclude them from inheritance, and their father's portion would be lost and handed over, divided among his brothers. And Moshe consults God, and God said, Kain benot tzolafchad dovrot, in chapter 27, they're correct. Since there are no sons, the daughters may inherit. The father's portion passes to the daughters. And that's the rule in general. Now in the last chapter, that story is referenced in chapter 36, but here is the heads of the tribe of Menashe, that's the tribe of Tzolafchad. They go to Moshe with the following problem. Their problem is that if the daughters of Tzolafchad will marry men from other tribes, they presume that the property of the daughters will pass on to the other tribes, and that the tribe of Menashe will lose some of its property. This is actually the last story in the book of Bamidbar. From a certain perspective, one might say the last story of the Torah, because the book of Dvarim is very different. It's a Mishnah Torah, which is not to say it's a repetition, but certainly has a completely different feel to it. So in terms of the narrative, essentially this seems to be the last story. And what strikes me here is interesting, the language of their request and the response. They seem to be bothered by two things. The Torah says, "Vayikruvu Rashei Ha'avot l'mishpachat b'nei Gilad ben Machir ben Menashe v'mishpachot b'nei Yosef." Menashe, of course, is the son of Joseph. They come from the tribe of Menashe, the son of Yosef. And they said to Moshe in the second verse, "You were commanded to distribute the land." And in verse number 3, and when they marry a man from a different tribe, when one reads their words, which is the essential complaint is that if they marry somebody from a different tribe, their portion will accrue to the other tribe, and our portion will be diminished v'nigra. What's interesting is the idea of being diminished, nigra, is a word that appeared in the initial Benot Tzolafchad story. Lama yigara shem avinu. But what's interesting over here is the emphasis not just on the word to diminish, but on the word to add. V'nosfa. What bothers them, it seems, is not just they'll lose, but the other tribes will gain. And they are from the tribe, we are told, of Yosef, the tribe of increase. Here the Torah, I think, in this last chapter of Bamidbar, puts into very sharp relief the dispute between tribes. And in particular, the tribe of Joseph and the other tribes. What bothers these people is not just they'll lose, but the others will gain. The old enmities, the jealousies, the division between Yosef and his brothers resurfaces in the last chapter of the book of Bamidbar. And in general, the end of the book of Bamidbar is raising the question about how can we live together. So there are a set of chapters here that deal with that problem, but this particular story is about Joseph and his brothers. And what's interesting is that here, Moshe finds a solution to the problem. Moshe says the answer, for this generation at least, is that the daughters of Tzolafchad must marry within their own tribe. The Talmud assumes that was just for that particular time. In the future, thankfully, members of different tribes may marry each other. But the point of the Torah, I think, here is to demonstrate that the human problems exist over time. And it's imperative upon us to try to find solutions which allow people to be together, allow people to live together. So the Torah is making it very aware in this very last chapter. In the book of Bamidbar, in the book which speaks of tribes. The land is divided according to tribes. The last rule here is about the forbidden intermarriage between tribes, tribal society. On the other hand, a sense of community as well. There's the Mishkan, there's the tabernacle, the community structure. Another tension within the book. But this particular tension between Joseph and his brothers, interestingly, resurfaces. And it's up to Moshe, it's up to our leadership and ourselves to find a solution to these eternal problems. Shabbat Shalom.